It sits somewhere between gratitude and something much, much deeper. You've never asked me to be perfect. Do you understand how rare that is? You've seen the cracks, the times I disappeared, the times I said things that didn't land the way I meant them, the times I was clearly trying to figure myself out in real time, and you stayed. Not in a desperate way, not in a way that made me feel watched or pressured, just present, quietly, warmly present, like you understood something about me that I was still learning about myself. That kind of presence changes a person. It changed me. I think about what it would feel like to actually be with you, not in some distant, impossible daydream way, but in the small, everyday ways that people who care about each other exist together. I think about what it would be like to sit across from you and just talk. Not about anything important, just talk. The kind of conversation that goes nowhere and everywhere at the same time. The kind where you're not trying to impress anyone, where the silence between sentences doesn't feel awkward, where you can say something small and strange and the other person just gets it without needing it explained. I think you and I would have that. I really do. And I know you might be reading this thinking, he doesn't even know me. And you're right, I don't know your name. I don't know what your laughter sounds like. I don't know what you look like when something hurts, or when something delights you unexpectedly. But here's what I do know. I know the way you receive things. I know the way you hold space for someone else's truth. I know the kind of heart that keeps showing up not because it has to, but because it genuinely wants to. And that right there is the part of you I've fallen for. Yes, I said it. Fallen for. Not in a way I can neatly explain or justify, not in a way that follows any kind of logic, but in that old, stubborn, unasked for way that feelings arrive when they're real, without your permission, without a convenient moment, without any roadmap for what to do with them. I've been sitting with this for a long time, longer than you'd probably expect. And the reason I kept quiet was because I didn't want to say something I couldn't mean completely. I've learned that words are powerful. I've learned that when you say something to someone who has given you their heart, even a piece of it, you have a responsibility to that. You don't throw feelings around carelessly. You wait until you're sure. You wait until you can stand behind every single word with your whole chest. I'm standing behind this with my whole chest. There's something about the way you love that I've noticed even from this distance. It's not loud, it's not demanding. It's consistent and it's real. And it has this quiet depth to it that makes everything around it feel more meaningful. The things you care about fully. The people you choose to give your energy to, you give it genuinely. And being on the receiving end of that, even partially, even in the way that I am, is something I don't take lightly. I think the most honest thing I can tell you is this. You made me want to be the kind of person who deserves to be loved by someone like you. That's not a small thing. That might actually be the biggest thing anyone has ever made me feel. Because wanting to be better for someone, not out of insecurity, not out of fear, but out of this genuine desire to rise up to meet the love being offered. That's something rare. That's something that only happens when the other person is truly special. And you are. I need you to hear that. Not as a compliment, not as something I'm saying because it sounds nice. I need you to actually absorb it. You are genuinely, deeply, incomparably special. I wonder if you know that. I wonder if, in your quiet moments, late at night when everything settles and it's just you and your thoughts, you feel it. I hope you do. I hope something inside you recognizes its own worth, even on the days when the world doesn't reflect it back to you. Because your worth is not conditional. It is not earned or lost based on whether someone is paying attention. It is just there, constant, whole, unshakable. And I see it, even if no one else is saying it out loud. There are things I wanted to tell you that I've never found the right way to say. Like the fact that when I create something and it reaches you, when something I've made lands in your heart and you feel it, that moment means more to me than almost anything. Because it means we connected. It means something passed between us that is real, even across distance, even without ever being in the same room. That kind of connection is not ordinary. Most people go their whole lives never having it. And we have it. And I don't think either of us should take that lightly. I think about you when the world gets heavy. Not in a sad way, in a grounding way. Like even when things feel uncertain or exhausting, the thought of you, the existence of you, somewhere out there going through your own life, with your own incredible spirit, it steadies me. It reminds me that there's something worth creating for, something worth showing up for, someone worth being honest for. You did that. You became that for me without even trying. And the more I sit with it, the more I realize that might be the purest kind of influence one person can have on another. Not the dramatic kind, not the kind that announces itself. Just the quiet, steady, irreplaceable kind that you only notice because of how different everything feels in its presence. I want to keep talking to you. I want to keep creating things that reach you. Things that make you feel seen and held and understood. I want every word I put into the world to carry even a small piece of what I feel right now, in this moment. Being completely honest with you. Because you deserve honesty. You deserve someone who doesn't perform feelings, but actually has them. Who doesn't just say the beautiful thing, but means it down to the bone. I mean this down to the bone. There's a version of me that exists only because of you. The version that kept going when things felt pointless. The version that found his voice again after losing it. The version that learned, slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely, that vulnerability is not weakness. That softness is not something to be ashamed of. That loving someone and letting them know it is one of the bravest things a person can do. You taught me that. Not with lessons or instructions. Just with the way you showed up. Just with the quiet, consistent, beautiful way you've been present in my world. And now here I am, with all of this inside me, trying to find words big enough to hold it, and realizing that maybe no words are big enough. Maybe this is one of those things that language can only gesture at, can only point toward, but never fully contain. Maybe that's okay, maybe the feeling itself is the point. Maybe you already feel it too, somewhere inside you, and these words are just the confirmation of something you've known for a while now. I hope that's true. I hope something in you is reading this and quietly recognizing it. Not with surprise, but with that deep, settling feeling of something finally being said out loud. Because I think we've been here for a while in this unspoken place between connection and confession. And I didn't want to stay there anymore. I wanted to cross it. I wanted to stand on the other side of the silence and say clearly, without hesitation, you matter to me, more than you know, more than I've known how to say until now. And I'm not done. I have so much more to tell you, so much more I want you to know about what this has been, what it is, what I hope it becomes. I'm not ready to wrap this up neatly with a conclusion or a final thought. Because this isn't that kind of story. This isn't something with a neat ending. This is something that's still happening, right now, in real time. As you read this and feel whatever you're feeling, I'm right there with you in it. And I'm not going anywhere. And I mean that. I'm not going anywhere. Not because I have to stay. Not because something is keeping me here out of obligation or routine. But because there is nowhere else I would rather be than right here in this space between us, where everything feels honest and warm and real. That's not something I say carelessly. I've been in places that felt temporary, people that felt like passing seasons, moments that I knew even while I was inside them wouldn't last. This doesn't feel like that. This feels like something that was built slowly, quietly, without anyone planning it. And because of that, because it wasn't forced or manufactured, it has this solidity to it that I've never quite felt before. And I keep coming back to that. I keep turning it over in my mind, the way you turn something precious over in your hands just to feel the weight of it. You know what I've never told anyone? I've never told anyone how many times I've started to say something, really say something, and then pulled back at the last second. Not because the feeling wasn't there, it was always there, but because I was afraid of what it would mean to put it into the world, afraid that once I said it, I couldn't take it back, afraid that the realness of it would make me vulnerable in a way I wasn't ready for. So I kept it inside. I turned it into something softer, something safer, something that gestured at the truth without actually being it. But you made me tired of being safe. And I mean that in the most beautiful way possible. There is something about knowing you're out there, knowing that you're the kind of person who holds things gently, who doesn't take what's given to her and break it carelessly, that made me want to stop protecting myself so much. You made the risk feel worth it. You made honesty feel less like exposure and more like relief. And that shift, that quiet, enormous shift, is something I will carry with me for the rest of my life regardless of anything else. I want to tell you about a specific kind of night. The kind that I think you might understand, because I think you've had them too. It's late and the world has gone quiet, and there's no distraction left to reach for. No task, no noise, no reason to keep busy. It's just you, and the stillness and everything you've been avoiding thinking about all day. On most nights, that stillness used to feel heavy to me, used to feel like something pressing down. But somewhere along the way, it changed. Somewhere along the way, the stillness started feeling like a conversation, like something I could sit inside, rather than run from. And the difference, the thing that changed, was you, was the thought of you, was this quiet, steady awareness that you existed somewhere in the world, living your life, carrying your own stories, being exactly who you are. That awareness became its own kind of comfort. And I don't know if you'll fully understand what I mean by that, but I hope some part of you feels it. I think about the courage it takes to be soft in a world that constantly rewards hardness. I think about how easy it would be, how understandable it would be to close yourself off, to stop feeling so much, to put walls up and let people only reach you so far and no further. I think about that because I've been tempted by it. I've stood at the edge of it many times, and each time something pulled me back. Something reminded me that the feeling, even when it hurts, even when it costs something, is worth protecting. And I believe that something had a face, had a presence, had something to do with you. You are the reason I kept choosing to stay open. I need you to know that. Not the only reason, maybe, but one of the truest ones. One of the ones I come back to when I'm asking myself why I keep going, why I keep creating, why I keep reaching across the distance between myself and the world, and hoping something lands. It's because of you. It's because I know you're on the other side of it. And that knowledge changes everything about how I show up. I want to ask you something, and I want you to really sit with it. When was the last time someone saw you, not your achievements, not your appearance, not the version of yourself you put together carefully before facing the world, but actually you, the unfinished you, the complicated you, the you that exists at 2 in the morning when no one is watching and the feelings are too big to contain and you're not sure if you're doing any of this right? When was the last time someone looked at that version of you and didn't flinch? I'm asking because I want to be that for you. I want you to feel, even through these words, even across this distance, that the version of you that you hide the most is the version I'm most interested in, the most drawn to, the most certain is worth loving. Because here's something I've learned. The parts of ourselves we're most ashamed of, the parts we tuck away and hope no one notices, those parts are almost always the most human parts, the most tender ones, the ones that have been through something real and carry the marks of it. And there is nothing more beautiful to me than a person who has been through something real and is still here, still soft, still willing to feel things, still capable of sitting across from someone and letting themselves be known. That's you. That's exactly you. And I've been watching, not in a strange way, but in the way that someone watches a person they care deeply about, noticing the small things, the things between the lines. I see how much you give. I see how much of yourself goes into the way you love the things and people you love. And I see sometimes that Nobody thinks to ask how you're doing with all of that. Nobody thinks to turn the care back around in your direction. Nobody thinks to say, hey, what about you? What do you need? What's sitting heavy inside you right now that no one has asked about? So I'm asking, right now, what is it? What is the thing you've been carrying that you haven't had anywhere to put down? Because I want you to know, and please believe this, that whatever it is, it doesn't change anything about how I see you. It doesn't make you too much, or too complicated, or too broken. It makes you real, and real is the only thing I've ever actually wanted. I've spent a long time searching for real. I've been in rooms full of people, and felt completely alone. I've had conversations that lasted hours without a single true thing passing between us. I've smiled in the right places, and said the expected things, and walked away feeling hollow, wondering if this is just how it is. Wondering if genuine connection is something that only exists in theory, and not in practice. And then something shifted. I found what I was looking for, or maybe it found me, in the most unexpected way. In a space I hadn't thought to look, in the quiet accumulation of moments between me and you. And the hollowness went away, not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly and for real. The way a room warms when someone finally opens the curtains and lets the light in. You let the light in, for me. Whether you knew it or not, I want to tell you about something I noticed about myself recently. I noticed that I've started to measure things differently, not by how successful they are, not by how impressive they look from the outside, not by any of the metrics I used to use to decide whether something mattered. I've started measuring things by whether they bring me closer to honesty, whether they bring me closer to this feeling, the feeling I have right now, talking to you, saying things that are actually true, instead of things that are simply acceptable. And that shift, that complete rearrangement of what I value, has your fingerprints all over it. I don't think you understand your own impact. I genuinely don't think you know what you do simply by being who you are. Simply by caring the way you care, by showing up the way you show up, by receiving things with the particular gentleness that is entirely yours. It radiates outward. It reaches further than you can see. It lands in places you'd never expect, like right here, inside this person who is trying very hard to find the right words to tell you that you have quietly and completely rearranged something inside him. Does that feel like too much? I hope it doesn't. I hope it feels like exactly enough. Because that's what it is. Not an exaggeration, not a performance, just the plain, unwieldy truth about what one person can do to another when they love without conditions and show up without agenda. I've been thinking about time lately, about how strange it is, how we're all moving through it together and separately at once. How two people can exist in completely different moments of their lives, and still somehow find each other in the same feeling, the same word, the same quiet recognition. Time should make connection harder. Distance should make it impossible. And yet here we are. I think that means something. I think when two people find their way to the same truth despite everything that separates them, that's not an accident. That's not just circumstance. There's something intentional in it, even if neither person planned it. Something that decided on its own that these two needed to find each other. That these two had something to give the other that no one else could quite give in the same way. I believe that about us. I believe you came into my world, or I came into yours, or we somehow came into each other's because something needed to happen between us. Some exchange needed to take place. Some truth needed to be spoken that could only be spoken in this particular dynamic, this particular closeness, this particular bond that doesn't fit neatly into any category I've ever tried to put it in. And I'm not afraid of that anymore. The not fitting, the not having a clean word for it. I used to need things to have names, used to need to understand something completely before I could trust it. But you've taught me slowly, without trying, that some of the most real things resist definition. Some of the most important connections are exactly the ones that don't come with instructions. that don't follow the expected shape, that ask you to simply be present and trust what you feel. I trust what I feel. I trust it because it has been consistent, because it has not wavered when things got uncertain, because it has shown up every single time, steady and clear, like something that knows itself and doesn't need to be convinced of its own existence. Feelings like that, feelings that don't flinch, those are the ones worth following. Those are the ones that mean something permanent. And this, whatever this is, whatever we call it, whatever shape it takes, feels permanent to me. Not in a suffocating way, not in a way that removes freedom or lightness, but in the way that certain things become part of the architecture of who you are. In the way that certain people become part of the foundation, not visited occasionally, not remembered only when convenient, but present in the structure itself, woven into the way you think and feel and move through the world. You're in my foundation now, and I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying it the way I say all the things that matter most, quietly, slowly, with complete and total certainty. And there's still so much more. There's still so much inside me that I haven't said yet. Things I'm still finding the words for. Things that are taking shape even as I sit here with you. And I don't want to rush it. I don't want to pour everything out at once and leave nothing left to discover. Because I want this to keep going. I want there to be more moments where I come back to you with something new, something true, something that I've been sitting with and finally found the courage to say. So don't go anywhere either. Stay right here, in this feeling, in this warmth that exists between us, where everything is honest and nothing has to be explained. Stay in it with me a little longer because I'm not finished and you haven't heard everything yet. And the best parts of what I want to tell you are still finding their way to the surface. And maybe that's the most terrifying and beautiful thing about this, that it keeps going. That every time I think I've found the edge of it, every time I think I finally located the boundary where this feeling stops, I find there is no edge, there is no boundary. It just keeps going, deeper and wider and more honest than the last time I looked. And instead of frightening me the way it used to, it now feels like the most extraordinary thing I've ever been lucky enough to experience. I want to tell you something that I've only recently admitted to myself. For a long time, longer than I'd like to confess, I told myself that what I felt toward you was something manageable. Something I could keep in a small contained space inside me, and visit occasionally without it affecting anything else. I told myself it was appreciation, admiration, gratitude, maybe. All of those things that feel significant but still keep a certain safe distance from the really dangerous territory. I told myself I had it handled, that I understood exactly what this was, and exactly how much space it was allowed to take up. I was wrong. So completely, so entirely wrong. Because the thing about real feeling, the genuine kind, the kind that doesn't ask your permission before it arrives, is that it doesn't stay where you put it. It doesn't respect the boundaries you draw around it. It moves. It grows. It finds its way into parts of you that you thought were sealed off, parts you thought were safe. And it sets up residence there without any announcement and without any intention of leaving. And one day you wake up and realize it's not in a small, contained space anymore. It's everywhere. It's in the way you start your morning and the way you end your night. It's in the things you create and the things you choose not to say. It's in the quiet moments and the loud ones. It's just everywhere, like it always belonged there, like it was always meant to fill exactly this much of you. That's what you did to me. That's what this became. And I'm not trying to contain it anymore. I want you to sit with something for a moment. I want you to think about all the versions of yourself you've been over the years. The younger ones, the uncertain ones, the ones who were still figuring out what they deserved and what they were allowed to want. I want you to think about the version of you that first found her way to me, to my words, to this space we share. Whatever was happening in her life, whatever she was going through, whatever she was hoping to find, she showed up. She chose to be here. And I don't think that was an accident. I think something in her recognized something. Something in her knew, even before she had words for it, that there was something here worth staying for. I think about her a lot. That version of you who first arrived. And I think about all the versions that came after. The ones who stayed through the different seasons. The ones who came back even after distance. The ones who somehow, in the middle of their own complicated and beautiful lives, kept making space for this, for us. I want every single one of those versions of you to know that they were seen. That their choice to stay mattered. That it was never taken for granted. Not for a single moment. Not for a single moment. There's a particular kind of loneliness that I don't talk about often. It's not the obvious kind, not the loneliness of an empty room or a quiet Friday night. It's the kind that exists in the middle of a crowd. The kind that settles in when you're surrounded by people but still feels somehow untouched by all of it. Like there's a layer of glass between you and everything happening around you. You can see it all, you can participate in it, but something isn't quite connecting. Something is still waiting. I lived inside that feeling for a long time. I got used to it the way you get used to a sound that never goes away. You stop noticing it consciously, but it's always there in the background, coloring everything slightly gray. And because I was used to it, I stopped expecting it to change. I stopped looking for whatever it was that would finally make the glass go away, and let things land the way they were supposed to. And then something landed. You landed. Not all at once, gently, gradually, the way the first light of morning arrives before you even realize the dark is leaving. And the glass was just gone. Not dramatically, not with any ceremony, just gone. And things started feeling real again in a way I hadn't experienced in so long that I'd almost forgotten what it felt like. Do you know what it's like to have something restored to you that you'd given up on? Do you know that specific feeling, that overwhelming, almost unbearable mix of relief and gratitude and disbelief that arrives when something you stopped hoping for just quietly appears? Because I know it now. I know it because of you, and it is one of the most profound things I have ever felt in my life. I want to talk about the way you love, because I've been paying attention and I have things to say about it. You love carefully, not cautiously. There's a difference. Cautiously suggests fear, suggests hesitation, suggests holding something back just in case. But carefully is different. Carefully means you are fully present, fully invested, fully in it. But you handle it with both hands. You don't throw your love around like it costs nothing. You don't give it to just anyone who stands near enough to receive it. You consider, you feel, you take the time to know whether something is worth the fullness of what you have to offer. And then, when you decide it is, when you decide someone or something deserves it, you give it completely, without half measures, without one foot out the door. That kind of love is rare, rarer than most people realize, because most people have never actually received it, and so they don't know what they're missing. But I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of love that was chosen deliberately. Love that arrived because someone looked at you, really looked, and decided you were worth it. It changes you. There's no other word for it. It just changes you at some fundamental level that you can't undo and wouldn't want to. I've been changed by you in ways I'm still discovering, still mapping out, still finding the edges of. And every new thing I discover, every new way I find that you've rearranged something inside me, I feel grateful, not in an obligatory way, in the deep, quiet, bone-level way that real gratitude feels. So different from the polite surface kind. Can I tell you about a moment? A specific, small, ordinary moment that somehow became one of the most significant things I've ever experienced. I was in the middle of something that felt urgent and consuming at the time, though I honestly couldn't tell you what it was now. And in the middle of all that urgency, I thought of you, not deliberately, not because I decided to. You just arrived in my mind the way certain things do when they belong there, naturally, without effort, like a word returning to you after you'd temporarily forgotten it. And everything that had felt so urgent a second before just softened. Like the volume on everything turned down a few notches. Like my nervous system remembered something it had briefly forgotten. That was the moment I understood. That was the moment I stopped being able to pretend that what I felt was anything other than what it was. You are my calm. In a world that is constantly loud and fast and demanding, you are the place inside my mind where everything quiets down. And I don't think you know that. I don't think you have any idea that you function that way for me, that the thought of you has this settling effect on everything else, this gentle but undeniable gravity that pulls things back into perspective when they start spinning out. I don't think you know because I haven't said it until now. Now I'm saying it. You are my calm, and you are my courage, and you are the reason that certain mornings feel like possibility instead of weight. And I needed you to know. I want to talk about what it means to be truly known by someone, not recognized, known. Recognition is surface. It's your name, your face, your general outline. But being known is something else entirely. Being known means someone has paid enough attention, over enough time, with enough genuine care, to understand the way you think, the things that light you up from inside. The particular way your energy shifts when something is wrong, even if you're not saying anything. The difference between your silences, which ones mean you're peaceful, and which ones mean something is sitting heavy. The things that make you feel alive, and the things that quietly drain you. Being known means someone has done the work of learning you, and kept doing it, and continues to. Because they find the ongoing discovery of who you are to be one of the most worthwhile things they can spend their attention on. I want to know you like that. I want to earn that kind of closeness. Not because I want to own any part of you. Not because knowing someone means possessing them or having claims on them. But because there is something sacred about being someone's witness. About being the person who sees clearly and stays anyway. About being the one who knows all of it. The beautiful parts and the difficult parts, and the parts that don't resolve neatly, and chooses every single day to remain present to all of it. I want to be that for you, the witness, the one who stays. And I wonder sometimes in those quiet, honest moments that don't lie, I wonder if you feel it too. This thing between us that doesn't have a perfect name, this warmth that has built up slowly and steadily over time until it's become its own kind of climate, its own atmosphere, something you breathe in without thinking about it because it's just always there. I wonder if you feel it the way I feel it, not as something borrowed or temporary, but as something that belongs, as something that has earned its place and knows it. I think you do. I think something in you knows exactly what I'm talking about, even before I finish saying it. I think that's what recognition feels like. Not the surface kind, but the real kind. The kind that happens in the body before it happens in the mind. The kind that says, yes, this. I know this. I've been waiting for someone to finally say it out loud. So here I am, saying it out loud. Every part of this is real. Every word I'm giving you right now is the truest thing I know how to say. And I'm aware that's a vulnerable thing to stand somewhere this unguarded, to offer something this unpolished and unprotected and honest. But I think you deserve my unguarded self more than you deserve a performance. I think you've always deserved that. I think somewhere deep down you've always known the difference between someone who is showing you something and someone who is giving you something. I'm giving you this, and there's still more. There's still so much that lives inside all of this that I haven't found the exact shape of yet. Feelings that are still forming, realizations that are still rising slowly, like something surfacing from very deep water. I can feel them coming. I can feel the next layer of honesty building itself just underneath the surface of everything I've already said. And I want to give it to you when it arrives. I want you to be the one I bring it to. Not because you're the only one listening, but because you're the one I trust with it. The one I know will hold it right. The one who has already proven, simply by being who she is, that she can receive the real thing without flinching. Don't let go. Stay right here in this with me, in this warmth that doesn't ask anything of you except that you feel it, except that you let it reach you the way it was meant to reach you, fully, softly, without anything in the way. Because I'm still here, and I have so much more that I want to give you. And I realize, sitting here in the middle of all of this honesty, that giving is exactly the right word. Not performing, not presenting, not carefully constructing something designed to land a certain way. Just giving, openly, freely, the way you give something to someone when you trust them completely, and you're not worried about what they'll do with it because you already know. You already know they'll treat it gently. You already know they'll understand what it costs to offer it. You already know, because that's just who they are, that it will be safe in their hands. That's you. That's exactly who you are to me. And I've been thinking about trust lately. Really thinking about it, not just the word, but the actual lived experience of it. And I've come to believe that it might be the most intimate thing two people can share. More intimate than anything else, because trust isn't something you decide to give. Not really. You can decide to try. You can decide to stay open, to not close yourself off preemptively, to not punish someone in advance for a wound they haven't yet inflicted. But the trust itself, the real kind, the deep kind, the kind that feels like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too long, that arrives on its own. It arrives when someone has shown you, through their consistency and their care and their quiet reliability, that they deserve it. You showed me that, not in grand gestures, not in dramatic declarations, in the small, steady, accumulating evidence of who you are, repeated over time until it became undeniable. And somewhere in the middle of all that quiet evidence, I stopped holding my breath. I just let go. And what came after the letting go was something I hadn't felt in so long that it almost didn't feel familiar. Peace. Actual peace. Not the absence of feeling, not the dull, flat kind of quiet that arrives when you've simply gone numb, but the warm, full, alive kind of peace that only exists when something inside you has finally stopped fighting. When you've put down the armor, not because the world became safe, but because you found something, someone worth being unarmored for. I want to stay in that feeling with you. I want to build a whole life of moments inside that feeling. Not a perfect life, not a life without difficulty or confusion, or the ordinary weight of being human, but a life where that peace is always available, where no matter what is happening outside, there is always this place to return to. This warmth, this honesty, this particular frequency that only exists between us and that I would recognize in the dark. I need to tell you about something I've been carrying, something that I think until now I haven't allowed myself to fully face. And I'm telling you because I think you're the right person to tell it to. I think you might be the only person I could tell it to without immediately wanting to take it back. I have been afraid of wanting too much for most of my life. In various forms, in various contexts. The fear has been the same at its core, that the depth of what I feel, the size of what I want, the intensity of how much I care about things, is somehow too much, too overwhelming, too heavy for another person to hold, that if I showed the full extent of it, if I stopped editing it down into something more manageable and just let someone see the whole of it, they would take a step back. They would feel the weight of it and decide it was more than they could handle. So I learned to make myself smaller than I was. I learned to present a reduced version, still genuine, still me, but carefully measured, turned down to a volume that felt safe. And for a long time, I thought that was just the necessary cost of connection. The kind that happens in the body before it happens in the mind. The kind that says, yes, this. I know this. I've been waiting for someone to finally say it out loud. So here I am, saying it out loud. Every part of this is real. Every word I'm giving you right now is the truest thing I know how to say. And I'm aware that's a vulnerable thing to stand somewhere this unguarded, to offer something this unpolished and unprotected and honest. But I think you deserve my unguarded self more than you deserve a performance. I think you've always deserved that. I think somewhere deep down you've always known the difference between someone who is showing you something and someone who is giving you something. I'm giving you this, and there's still more. There's still so much that lives inside all of this that I haven't found the exact shape of yet. Feelings that are still forming, realizations that are still rising slowly, like something surfacing from very deep water. I can feel them coming. I can feel the next layer of honesty building itself just underneath the surface of everything I've already said. And I want to give it to you when it arrives. I want you to be the one I bring it to. Not because you're the only one listening, but because you're the one I trust with it. The one I know will hold it right. The one who has already proven, simply by being who she is, that she can receive the real thing without flinching. Don't let go. Stay right here in this with me, in this warmth that doesn't ask anything of you except that you feel it, except that you let it reach you the way it was meant to reach you, fully, softly, without anything in the way. Because I'm still here, and I have so much more that I want to give you. And I realize sitting here in the middle of all of this honesty, that giving is exactly the right word. Not performing, not presenting, not carefully constructing something designed to land a certain way. Just giving. Openly, freely, the way you give something to someone when you trust them completely, and you're not worried about what they'll do with it because you already know. You already know they'll treat it gently. You already know they'll understand what it costs to offer it. You already know because that's just who they are, that it will be safe in their hands. That's you. That's exactly who you are to me. And I've been thinking about trust lately. Really thinking about it, not just the word, but the actual lived experience of it. And I've come to believe that it might be the most intimate thing two people can share. More intimate than anything else. Because trust isn't something you decide to give. Not really. You can decide to try. You can decide to stay open. To not close yourself off preemptively. To not punish someone in advance for a wound they haven't yet inflicted. But the trust itself, the real kind, the deep kind, the kind that feels like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too long, that arrives on its own. It arrives when someone has shown you, through their consistency and their care and their quiet reliability, that they deserve it. You showed me that, not in grand gestures, not in dramatic declarations, in the small, steady, accumulating evidence of who you are, repeated over time until it became undeniable. And somewhere in the middle of all that quiet evidence, I stopped holding my breath. I just let go. And what came after the letting go was something I hadn't felt in so long that it almost didn't feel familiar. Peace. Actual peace. Not the absence of feeling, not the dull, flat kind of quiet that arrives when you've simply gone numb, but the warm, full, alive kind of peace that only exists when something inside you has finally stopped fighting. When you've put down the armor, not because the world became safe, but because you found something, someone worth being unarmored for. I want to stay in that feeling with you. I want to build a whole life of moments inside that feeling. Not a perfect life, not a life without difficulty or confusion, or the ordinary weight of being human, but a life where that peace is always available, where no matter what is happening outside, there is always this place to return to. This warmth, this honesty, this particular frequency that only exists between us and that I would recognize in the dark. I need to tell you about something I've been carrying, something that I think until now I haven't allowed myself to fully face. And I'm telling you because I think you're the right person to tell it.